Good morning, this is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. And we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what's known as the daily office lectionary. And today I thought we would go ahead and take a look at the lesson from St. John's Gospel. It's assigned for evening prayer. We're now in the 6th chapter of John's Gospel, and this is known as the Great Eucharistic Theology chapter because Jesus talks about himself and ultimately gives to us the theology behind the Blessed Sacrament that we find in Holy Communion. So we're at the beginning of the chapter, we heard about the feeding of the multitude. And so, of course, that is a bread theme. And then, of course, the people come back to Jesus, not so much because of the theology, but because, well, he's feeding them, right? And why wouldn't they want to show up if he's feeding them? And so he goes, picking up at chapter 30, he talks a little bit about the relationship of bread and the original covenant and what he is now doing as the second person of the Trinity who's been made flesh and is dwelling among the people of the Jews. Chapter 6, beginning at verse number 30. They said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you, that you may also see me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all that he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. And I will raise him up at the last day. Okay, so Jesus, of course, makes a reference that the people who come to Jesus said, you're talking about bread. Our fathers gave us bread from heaven. He gave us bread in the wilderness, right? And so God fed the people of the Jews. We know the story of they escaped slavery, and God provides everyday manna from heaven for them to eat. They can only eat one day's worth. They can only collect one day's worth. They can't try to hoard it up, except for on Friday night, they can take 2 days worth. Friday morning, they can take 2 days worth because they can't pick it up on the Sabbath day. So, what is this about? They have to trust that God will feed them. But Jesus says, look, through Moses, you got this promise of bread. God gave it to you. He said, but I'm the bread of life, right? More than just physical nourishment. But what I'm going to give you is, he says, for the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. And of course, Jesus is the one who has come down from heaven. He is the second person of the Holy Trinity. And he says, I am the bread of life. Right? He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. And he's talking about spiritual principles, of course, of hunger and thirst, right? Hunger and thirst after righteousness. You've seen me, you don't believe me, but, and then we hear again, another line from the burial liturgy. Remember, we had this yesterday. We heard from St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, one of the lines from the burial liturgy. Well, today we hear, all that Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven to do not my own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father will which hath sent me. Of all that he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. So again, we talked about that, the end of time, the physical resurrection, right? And so if we believe on Jesus, everyone who sees him, they'll have everlasting life, and he'll raise them up on that last day. What a wonderful promise. As we get further into John's Gospel, into this chapter, of course, we're going to find out that that bread of life is the flesh of Jesus Christ. And of course, Jesus Christ gives us his flesh to eat. So today's Saturday, and tomorrow we gather for worship, and what a wonderful, the fourth Sunday after Epiphany. And so I do hope that you will make the opportunity to do what is important, to receive the bread of life under the sacrament of our Lord's body and blood, And 7:30 morning prayer, 8 o'clock Holy Communion, 10 o'clock Holy Communion, 5:30 evening prayer with the opportunity to receive Holy Communion. And I hope that your Saturday is a day that is full of blessings. See you in church, God willing.